Welcome to another CS210 program tutorial. What I want to do here is give you what I would like to see you put in a program. There's a lot of thought put into this document, and it's something that I truly believe in, and I hope that you will follow it, because many of the things that are in here are really to help you make a better programmer. And I don't like taking points off for silly things, but I know that when I was a programmer, I had to follow strict rules and regulations, but they actually were for the better of my programming code. So I'm going to do the same thing for you. So right off the bat, uh, on the very top, and then I'm going to go back and forth between Visual Studio and here. You're going to put your name, your first name and your last name. Please remember, we're college students, so just putting your first name is not really college material. You want to put your first and last name. Put the activity that you're doing. Again, we have activity 5.3, which is project 2, and a brief purpose of the program. So here I have opened up a program standards in here. So the easiest way to do comments is with the slash and the star, and you're going to put your name. And I'll just do activity program standards. And for time's sake, I'll just leave it at this program will, and leave it at that. So apparently I have not gotten any better typing since the last time I've done this. So let's go back now to the standards in here. So here's where you're going to put your includes. So includes are really very important. Often things that work on Xcode don't work on Visual Studio. So it's really better to have something that you don't need than need something and you don't have it. So let's go back to our includes here, and you're always going to need IOStream. So you're going to just type in include and IOStream. And in many cases, you're going to need to use string. And also, in many cases, you will need IOmanip. And you'll learn about those as time goes by. Now, you can declare a string variable without including string, but you will not have use of the many string functions such as length and find and things of that nature. IOmanip is done for formatting and displaying, so you can display doubles to 2 decimal places and set the width, left and right align, things of that. Now, here is something that if you go and ask 20 people, you will get 20 different answers. And I highly recommend, if you're a beginning programmer, that you put in using namespace standard. So you can argue with me if you want. I don't demand it. I recommend it. But if you don't do it, you're going to need to have to type in STT : a lot, which kind of leads me often to believe that you copied somebody else's code. Because I'm kind of saying you should use using namespace standard, but I'm not going to recommend it. But then I'm going to show you a workaround so you don't have to put in using namespace standard, but you don't have to type in STG. So let me uncomment this out here for a second. And let's create our integer main. And I always recommend, not required, but I always recommend that you comment a closing brace. As you start putting in nested braces and a whole bunch of functions and you delete one, this will make it so much easier for you to find. And then, of course, you should always have your return 0 statement in here. So if I wanted to print something out, such as the hello world, so I'm going to do cout hello world. And notice that the cout is red and it says cout is undefined. So what that means is we need to type in STT first, and that tells us where it actually belongs to. Now, without getting carried away, I recommend in the beginning that you always use using namespace standard. What I do is I will do this. Again, this is totally your course. I'm in your call. I will not take off for it, but when I say something several times, such as I highly recommend, then it's really a good idea to do that. And usually people that don't listen to these videos don't take advantage of what I have to say, and sometimes the scores are not as good as they could be, but we'll work on that later on. So I don't want to type in STD : every single time, and I don't want to use using namespace standard, although again I recommend it. So I'm going to put in using STD cout, and now I can delete this here, which means that every time I want to use cout, I don't have to type it in because I've done it here. It just means whenever I say cout, use that. So again, choice is yours. I prefer that you don't put STD : in front of everything. If you're doing a huge program, when I mean huge, where several people are working on and you have several different namespaces, then yes, it makes sense. So you don't have something that is not confusing, or a function that may be written that happens to have the same name, such as sort. So let's go and back to the document here. And so sensible inline comments. So that means that you should, all the things, you don't have to put every single line, but it should have a general idea of what you're doing. All variables declared together. It's better reading when all the variables are declared together. And global variables, do not use global variables unless they are constants in there. And again, no one-letter variable names except for loop counters in here. And more details on that. And then now this is something that often people will lose points for, because I do not believe it's good programming in there. You'll lose it in the best practices in there. It's not that it will not work in your code, but you want to make sure that you're getting the most points for the best practices. So let's just take a look at something that is not a good idea to do. And let's declare 3 integers. And I can do num1, num2, and num3, and everything's fine. But they're not initialized. So what I ask you to do is the following. And I like to put the nums and on a separate line, starting with here. You'll see how they line up really nice. So now that we have them on a separate line, then what I can do here is initialize it to 0. And I'll initialize this to 0. And I'll initialize this to 0. Now, you cannot assume that by declaring a variable, it'll get initialized to 0. And then you're going to put a comment for each one. Something simple. Now, a comment such as declaring variables is not meaningful. So if you get a feedback that says comments are not meaningful, that might what we'll be talking about in here. So I'm going to probably have to break this into 2 separate movies or videos so that they're not so long. Obviously, I really want to make sure that I cover this really well for you. So let's go back to here, variables declared together. So what that means, it's not a good idea to declare something here and then further down the road declare something again, and then further down the road. That can lead to confusion. It could lead to duplicate variables being declared. So you may get a comment saying, please declare variables together. Now, there are times that does make sense in here. So just put that in the back of your mind for right now. So I've given you some insights on this here, meaningful comments in here. All right, so here is very simple. All variables, all. So let me say that again. All variables. Now I'm talking about normal variables. I'm not talking about structures. I'm not talking about classes. I'm talking about general variables need to be camel case. So let's look at what camel case is. First word is lowercase. Each of the following words begins with a capital letter. And so I've given you an example, hours work. So let's just do hours work in here. And we'll make it a double because maybe they work 30.5 hours. So I'm going to do hours worked. And I'll initialize it to 0.0. And then I'll put in the comment number of hours the employee worked, or something witty like that. So now we're down to the next one. So let's go and see in here. So I've given you some explanation in here. And here's the thing too. You want to make it where there's not so much text in here. Number of students in class today. Do we really need to have that? Now, let me get rid of these red lines here. I am not a fan of snake case. Some people think it's the right thing. If you're going to use it in combination with camel case. I just don't think number of students in class today is necessarily. What I recommend is keep it be 3 variables, 3 names at most, maybe 4, but when you start getting 5 in there, so again, sometimes that can be very, very, very tricky in here. So try to use your own judgment. But again, I've got in here, try to keep it to a max of 3. Constants. Constants are all uppercase, and you need to use snake case. Snake case has different definitions. Some people say it's capitalize every letter, the first word the first letter of every word. Some say don't capitalize any of them. But to me, snake case is you just have an underscore between each word. You must need that with a constant because it would be too hard to understand what is without that. So again, upper snake case and max students in here. Now, I recommend making constants globals. The reason being is they're available through all of the program. If you're passing arrays and you need the size, the array size is always available. Otherwise, you'll have to pass it. If you want to do it, that's fine. If you don't want to do it, that's fine also. I do it that way. I just think it makes it easier. So as far as user data types, now I do not believe that this class requires you to use structures, but I introduced structures in the Shade O'Clock project to keep track of the time. So again, you're going to use this should be Pascal case. I do not know why I have camel case. So let me fix that on the fly. So notice I have structure and it's time clock. So the reason for the capital letter is it tells me that this is user defined. You'll see the same thing with classes. And here it's just these are the members of the structure. So I just use regular camel case for that. Then default constructor, you learned about the default constructor. This is the easiest, most preferred way of doing it, where you can initialize all of the variables in here inside the definition and then just call time clock. Notice that it's time clock, the name of the structure, and the parentheses equals default. That's all you need to do. No parentheses after the default. Again, notice how I put in a comment at the end of the structure, or I could have put in end of structure time clock in here. So you can do this for the default constructor, and you may see that in there, but it's not the preferred way, and it makes a little bit more work if you have to add something in here. So if I add date or something like that, I don't have to change this. I just have to put in the date where if I'm using this to in here. So again, structure variables use camel case. So that makes sense in here. And enumerators here, same thing for enumerators. Enumerators, I do not know for sure if you're using them in here, But enumerators are a way that you can make a number represented by text. So if we do time of day, morning will be 0, afternoon will be 1, evening will be 2, and night will be 3. It always starts at 0. So that way, if you want to do something like a lunch menu, you can do case morning, eggs, case afternoon, sandwich, case evening, roast con pollo, night, brownies in there. Instead of doing the time, however, and again, snake case for that. So I think this is 50 minutes. I think I'm going to, let me see, classes. So I think I'm going to pick up on classes on the next video. You'll get a complete email with all of these for you always to have handy. Please remember that I do look at these in here, especially when we get to while true loops in here. So this will be a part 1, part 2. We need to have a part 3. Also, advertisement for my YouTube channel. Please make sure that you're looking at my channel. If you like this video, please make sure that you like it. If you have a comment on the video, please make sure that you make a comment. Again, subscribe to my channel and you'll get to see when new things come out in here, and keep me going in here, and that will give me encouragement. If you want me to make a video on something particular, please let me know that as well. I know my videos are long sometimes. I try to keep them between 15 and 20 minutes whenever possible. So please let me know if there's anything that you have questions on. Please, these videos are for you. Please watch them. And so if you watch these videos, I promise you that it'll be worth it, because I truly believe you will get a better grade, but more important, you'll become a better programmer. That is it for now, and see you the next time around.